Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. Max Blumenthal joins us now. Max, a pleasure, my dear friend. Thank you so much. I want to spend some time asking you about your dynamite interview with a physician who was in the Nassar hospital when the IDF attacked twice. But before we get there, is there Israeli domestic resistance to Netanyahu regime's plans to invade and occupy Gaza? I am hearing the head of the military, the head of Shin Bet, the head of Netanyahu's own Security Council, and his own foreign minister are against it. Or is this just for PR purposes?
Well, 100 Israeli reservists announced their refusal, which is the first time we've seen reservists refuse anything since prior to October 7th during the giant national battle over judicial reform, which was really a proxy for the culture war that Netanyahu and the messianic forces behind him have won. So these reservists are refusing on the grounds correctly that this occupation of Gaza City will lead to the death of the remaining living Israeli captives inside Gaza. That's what's going to happen. They're not doing so necessarily to save Palestinian lives, but there's great concern within the Israeli opposition about the position Israel's in on the national stage, and that it's losing support within Western governments outside of the Trump administration, and that Trump might even lose patience. But that's not going to stop Netanyahu. The Israeli chief of staff, Eyal Zamir of the Israeli military, hadn't voiced opposition himself, but he's going full steam ahead. And the reservists, there's a call up of like 60,000 men. And I see nothing that will stop this catastrophic occupation of Gaza City, which is hell on civilians there. Absolute hell. Most of them have experienced so much hell that they're not even willing to leave. And they've simply set up tents on the beaches to the west of Gaza City and are staying put within their city. And what's happening is every night the Israeli military is driving in remote controlled bombs set on trucks and military surplus vehicles that are kind of wrecked and blowing up every possible building, residential building they can inside Gaza. They're trying to reduce the whole city to rubble so that no one can possibly come back and that there's nowhere for the forces of the Al-Qassam brigades, the armed wing of Hamas, to fight in. And the crimes just on a nightly basis are outrageous, and they're killing about 100 to 150 people a day. The carnage continues to show up in our social media. Yesterday, I saw video of a fetus that had been killed after the mother was killed. And I've just seen images so shocking that I've never seen before, but nothing is stopping it. And no European governments or the US government, of course, are stopping arms shipments to Netanyahu. So it's going to go full steam ahead. And they still have this fantasy date of completing their occupation on October 7th.
Wow. Can Hamas stop it?
They can make it very difficult. And they have, let's say, 20,000 fighters. I don't know how they're doing with weapons. Their rocket arsenal is mostly expended. They do have some rockets that can fire within Gaza City, within Gaza. They do have small arms like AK-47s. They do still have some tandem anti-tank weapons that they can use in a coordinated fashion to stage ambushes against Israeli armor, which they did very effectively last week in the Al-Zaytun neighborhood of Gaza City, which Israel has failed on 7 separate occasions to capture. They've had to keep coming back after declaring that the Al-Qassam brigade of Al-Zaytun is gone. And so they've become sort of a legendary brigade. And what they also have is IEDs. And the IEDs are one of the most effective weapons. They're basically repurposing unexploded Israeli bombs that are dropped from the air into like TV bombs, Shawaz bombs, they call them. And then they plant them by hand on tanks. We saw during Operation Gideon's Chariot, which was the failed total victory Netanyahu operation launched last June, and a Qassam fighter actually dropped a Shawaz bomb through the open turret of a Namur armored personnel carrier and killed all 7 soldiers inside. So if this continues to happen and the deaths pile up for Israeli soldiers, we will see more and more domestic opposition. And again, these are reservists. A lot of them are guys who have jobs back, inside Israeli society, who are in their 30s and have families. And so this has an enormous economic and psychological strain on Israeli society as well.
Wow. Was Tony Blair recently at the White House, and is there some connection between that and Trump's post-Gaza war plans for the Gaza Strip?
Yeah, I mean, this is just sick. It's absolutely sick. Tony Blair's claiming, he's just consulting with Trump and providing know-how. But as I've been reporting for years, even before the gray zone existed, Tony Blair has been working with international consultancy firms, the United Arab Emirates, JP Morgan, in order to cash in off a kind of Israeli takeover of Gaza after the removal of Hamas. There was a paper I got a leaked paper back in like 2014 where Blair was consulting with McKinsey and John Kerry at the time to provide sweatshops to Gaza, to basically turn Gaza into a giant sweatshop to make clothes for Israeli designers after Hamas was toppled, but that didn't happen. And now they've involved the Boston Consulting Group, and they put together this plan for what amounts to Trump's Gaza Riviera. And every time Trump floats his fantasy of a Gaza Riviera, which is basically an ethnically cleansed, totalitarian ruled Gaza without any resistance inside, Trump gives the green light to Netanyahu to continue carrying out ethnic cleansing, which he frames as voluntary migration. And what they're now pushing is a plan to, number one, they haven't completed the destruction, destroy the north, make it uninhabitable, push everyone south, place them in a series of bubbles, which are biometric concentration camps, and then offer them incentives to leave Gaza forever, to pay for food, subsidies, to leave. I don't know where they're going to go. Egypt doesn't want them there. But the plan will at least go to 2 phases of destruction and concentration. And these have been spelled out. These blueprints have been spelled out and been passed around since at least early 2024, when the Israeli Prime Minister's office uploaded them to his website. And they show the 4-stage plan of like destroying Gaza, concentrating the population, weeding out the bad people, putting them in like torture dungeons, then reconstruction. Then it becomes this Dubai-like paradise, which is ruled by, some authority that has no intention of resisting Israel. And Elon Musk gets to build an electric car EV plant inside Gaza. There's actually the final graphic in this presentation shows an Elon Musk-like character with some Emirati-looking figures at an EV plant where the poor labor is provided by Gaza. And this fantasy will never come to pass. What we're going to see instead is just a kind of Holocaust continuing for the next several years. And Tony Blair is deeply involved in this. I mean, he is an international criminal who is still out there preying on some of the most oppressed, vulnerable people in the world to make a profit.
So what is he doing? Selling arms or purporting to sell real estate?
I mean, he's always been involved with the Emiratis, and he also has been a consultant for JP Morgan. And so he has come into the Palestinian worked through the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank to finagle various cell phone deals through companies like Watan, which had investors from JP Morgan and were provided through the Emirates. So he's basically a rainmaker for the people, the forces, the very wealthy forces behind him. And he had set up his peacemaking team on a full floor of the American Colony Hotel in occupied East Jerusalem, where he was pretending to be making peace and trying to work out negotiations, but ultimately he was folding the entire process into a money-making operation for himself and those behind him. And so I assume he sees the same opportunities in Gaza. And who else was involved in these meetings? Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who has investments in companies that want to build real estate in Gaza, seaside real estate. And Jared Kushner has been very open about his intention to do that.
Right, right.
Basically, the world's one of the world's biggest slumlords.
You recently interviewed a physician from the Nassar hospital. What did he tell you?
Well, this is Dr. Ahmed Al-Farah, who is the director of pediatrics and maternal medicine at Nassar Hospital in Khan Yunis. And he was in the hospital when Israel bombed the upper floor of the hospital, a stairwell, in order to kill Hussam al-Masri, who was working for Reuters, manning their live stream camera. And an Israeli military unit just decided, oh, that's a Hamas camera. They're looking at us. Let's kill them. And then a rescue team and 4 other journalists, including the photographer for the Associated Press in Gaza, Mariam Abu Daga, who's like a famous journalist in Gaza, rushed up to the place where Israel bombed. They wanted to rescue their friend, and they were documenting the incident. And then apparently 2 tank shells targeted them and killed the entire rescue team and 4 other journalists, as well as 15 civilians inside the hospital. And then the Israeli military proceeds to say, oh, they were Hamas, they were tracking our soldiers. No, it was a complete lie. And so I spoke to Ahmed Al-Farah about that and about the humanitarian crisis that's unfolding in Gaza, where you're not only seeing hunger descend on the population, and they're actually treating children who are suffering from severe malnutrition, but Guillain-Barré syndrome is erupting across Gaza. This is something that normally would never happen if infectious diseases weren't spreading. There is a massive plague of influenza where people are extremely sick for 2 weeks at a time, especially children. And he's treating gunshot wounds, munition wounds all the time, especially from people who have gone as aid seekers to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation site. So this pediatrician has seen it all, and he speaks very good English. So I thought it was someone important to talk to. You can see the interview at the Gray Zone.
Wow. There's no question but that the civilians in the hospital were targeted by the IDF. The journalists in the hospital were targeted by the IDF. And the people trying to save those who had been targeted by the IDF were themselves targeted by it.
Yeah, they're openly targeting journalists. They're not even hiding it. Israel was proud of assassinating Anas al-Sharif, the most famous journalist in Gaza, the voice of Gaza, who is Al Jazeera's chief correspondent. They were proud of killing his predecessor, Hossam Shabbat, who was one of Al Jazeera's top correspondents. They were proud of killing his predecessor, Ismail al-Ghul, and they targeted his predecessor and killed his entire family. Anyone who becomes the top correspondent for Al Jazeera in Gaza basically gets killed by the Israelis, and then they brag about it and blame, and then they say they were Hamas militants. They say that every time. And now Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, which is violating the American Foreign Registration Act by channeling foreign Israeli government money into a propaganda NGO called Chorus, has taken out ads across social media where they are trying to justify their killing of around 300 journalists by sullying and smearing the reputations of each journalist that they have slaughtered. We have never seen anything like this in human history. And we've never seen an attack on the press like this before. And the response from the press in Washington is muted at best, if not completely silent. And where are the press organizations or the major press agencies, including Reuters and AP, which just took bodies inside a hospital of two of their top correspondents in Gaza, pushing to not only condemn Israel, to stigmatize Israeli journalists who should be boycotted as punishment. Israeli journalists who have participated in the military should face complete stigmatization for this. They should face pariah status. But they are not also staging any international campaign to demand entry into Gaza to cover this unprecedented genocide. I mean, where do you hear journalists when they interview Israeli officials demanding that they be allowed in? It doesn't even happen.
So there are effectively no journalists in Gaza. How is it that we see videos of what's happening? The Palestinians themselves have cell phones.
Yeah, everybody has a cell phone. There still are journalists there. Israel 2 days ago killed 2 more prominent journalists. These are some of the bravest people in the world, some of the most selfless people in the world. And a commentator, one of the top sort of national security military commentators in Israeli Hebrew media, his name is Zvi Yehezkeli, ultra-nationalist fanatic, speaks Arabic, so he sort of tries to translate what the Arabs are doing back to a very nationalist and racist Israeli public. He has said that all these journalists in Gaza are waging cognitive warfare on Israel. That's the term he used. And therefore, all of them should be eliminated because they are shaping the narrative that the world is using to turn Israel into an international pariah. So every journalist in Gaza now has a target on their back. And if Western journalists did gain entry to Israel, like mainstream journalists from major news agencies with credentials and press vests, they would get killed as well. Israel has no red lines right now. And what they would do is they would they'd kill a few. Maybe they'd say it was an accident, or as Netanyahu says, a tragic mishap. And they would try to send a message to the rest of them not to get too close to the genocide and not to come in. So instead, for now, they're just preventing them from coming in. The targeting that's taking place in Gaza is being determined by local commanders in southern Israel. And at Hakiria, the command center in Tel Aviv, there have even been arguments reported in the Hebrew press, not in English, between the general staff saying, you know, your targeting is a little bit too liberal. You're killing way too many people who are civilians. And the Southern Command is just like, go to hell. We're going to do what we want. And you can see they still continue to do what they want.
Did the Israelis kill Abu Obaida?
I don't know. They say they did. I've seen some rumors that he survived. I don't know. Israel has said that it killed the chief of staff of the Al-Qassam brigades, Mohammed Deif. They had said that 5 times until they finally killed him through a series of massive GBU bombs dumped on a displaced persons camp several months ago. So now they claim to have killed Abu Obaida. For those who don't know, he's the voice of the Al-Qassam brigades. He's the voice of the resistance of Gaza. He's one of the most revered figures among everyone who supports resistance in the Arab world. The first time I went to Gaza, I could see that people who didn't even support Hamas respected him. He was a Islamic studies graduate level student who went into Hamas's military wing, and all the major speeches that captivate the local population are delivered by him. And Israel has claimed that they have finally killed him after many conflicts. But before they killed him, they killed some 200 members of his own family, including his 2 sons, in order to get to him.
Is Netanyahu still planning soon, notwithstanding what happened the last time, to invade Iran?
Well, I don't know about invade, but absolutely. Israel is planning to attack Iran. I have no doubt that Israel will attack Iran. No one I know in Iran thinks there's any way around this. When it will take place is unclear, but it could happen any day. And the reason that they plan to attack Iran is because they believe that, number one, Iran's enriched uranium stockpile still exists. Number two, Iran could repair its anti-aircraft, multi-layered anti-aircraft system and reestablish deterrence. Number three, Iran is repairing its ballistic missile launchers, and they feel like they have a short window of time to take advantage of whatever damage they did. At the same time, Israel will face, I think, a harsher response from Iran. This will be a more violent round. It probably will last longer than 12 days. And Israel's economy will suffer a harsh blow. 1/3 of all U.S. THAAD missile stocks were expended in the last conflict with Iran. And in order to defend Israel, which has no ability to defend itself without the U.S., the THAAD missiles proved really pivotal as Israel's own Arrow systems started to fail. And Israel is struggling to replenish its domestic Arrow missile interceptor stocks. So Israel's vulnerable right now. But at the same time, Netanyahu sees this as the most important part of his legacy, that if he can eliminate the base of resistance in Iran, that he can basically die a happy man, and he will have secured the future of his ethno-supremacist Jewish state as he charges to victory in Gaza. I think it's going to be much more difficult and much more ugly. And one more point, another reason that they see an attack on Iran is so urgent is because Trump has given them the green light. They feel like they control Trump entirely and will face no resistance. But after the midterm elections, if the Democrats win, it could be a more difficult environment in Washington.
Wow. Max, thank you very much. These are such dark days. I don't see any happy end to this at all. Trump's not going to change his mind. He can't change his mind. The Israelis will just keep killing and killing and killing.
And killing the prime minister of Yemen and his entire cabinet, non-military target,
Right.
Operating in the open. I mean, we haven't seen anything like this. And then we have Venezuela to discuss. I'll look forward to your discussion with Anya tomorrow.
Yes, yes. So we have a lot to ask her about Venezuela, and I have a lot to contribute to that as well. We have clips of Pete Hegseth. They're just enough to make you vomit. We think you're going to commit a crime. We can kill you.
So much for the peace presidency. We're bombing fishing boats now.
So much for the Constitution, to the fidelity of which they all have sworn an oath. Thank you, Max. Thanks very much. I know you had a busy day. I appreciate you making time for us. All the best.
Anytime, Judge. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And coming up tomorrow, Ambassador Freeman at 8 in the morning. From Shanghai, Pepe Escobar at 9 in the morning. Anya Parampil, of whom we just spoke, at 1 in the afternoon. Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson at 2, Professor John Mearsheimer at 3, Colonel Douglas McGregor at 4. I go to sleep at 5. Kidding about the sleep. Thank you for watching. Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.